Standing at the metaphorical grave of a life I thought I was meant to live, holding the keys to a past I had tried so desperately to bury, I never imagined that a single moment of grace on a sunlit Tuesday afternoon would completely shatter the quiet lies keeping my heart frozen for 3 long years. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment right now to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share it with someone who might need a reminder that healing is possible, and subscribe to our channel to join our family of compassionate souls searching for light in everyday stories. For 3 years, the mention of Clara's name was enough to make my chest tighten with a familiar, dull ache. We had spent 4 years building what I believed was an unshakable foundation, only for it to crumble into dust over a series of bitter misunderstandings, unsaid apologies, and a sudden, cold exit that left me questioning my own worth as a man. It was Maeve, holding a heavy brown paper bag that was beginning to tear at the bottom, her auburn hair gleaming in the sunlight as she tried in vain to flag down help or make a phone call with a clearly dead cellular phone. Time seemed to stop for a fraction of a second as the ghosts of my past collided head-on with the reality of the present. My initial instinct was to get into my truck, turn the key, and drive away before she noticed me, preserving the fragile peace I had spent years cultivating. Yet, as I watched her struggle to balance the groceries while wiping sweat from her forehead, a quiet voice inside me reminded me of who I truly wanted to be, a man defined by character rather than lingering bitterness. I swallowed the lump of pride in my throat, walked across the sun-baked asphalt, and offered her a hand just as her grocery bag burst, sending fruit rolling across the pavement. She looked up, her blue eyes wide with shock and a sudden, palpable vulnerability that instantly stripped away the formidable barrier I had constructed against her in my mind. After helping her gather her things and placing them safely in the passenger side of my cab, I offered her a ride home, assuring her that a tow truck could easily handle her stranded car later that afternoon. The ride began in a heavy, suffocating silence that contrasted sharply with the vibrant, sun-drenched suburban streets passing by our windows. The rhythmic hum of the tires against the pavement was the only sound between us for the first few miles, both of us acutely aware of the unsaid words, the lingering grievances, and the painful history that bound us together. I kept my eyes fixed on the road ahead, admiring the dappled sunlight filtering through the dense oak trees lining the boulevard, trying to keep my hands steady on the steering wheel while my mind raced through 100 different scenarios of how this brief encounter might end. As we neared the turn for her residential neighborhood, where the cozy, 2-story houses sat behind neatly manicured lawns bathed in golden sunlight, the atmosphere inside the truck shifted noticeably. I put on my turn signal, slowing down to make the right-hand turn toward her driveway, fully expecting her to reach for her bag and prepare to step back out of my life forever. But just as the truck began to round the corner, Maeve reached across the console, her fingers lightly touching my wrist with a gentle, trembling pressure that made my heart leap into my throat. She looked straight ahead, her voice barely louder than a whisper as she asked me softly to drive past her street, just once, and keep driving toward the scenic overlook near the coast. The unexpected request caught me completely off guard, but something in the sheer exhaustion and quiet desperation of her tone compelled me to cancel the turn signal and press down gently on the accelerator. We drove past her quiet neighborhood, leaving behind the familiar suburban safety, and headed up the winding coastal highway where the afternoon sun blazed bright over the shimmering expanse of the open ocean below. For 20 minutes, neither of us spoke, allowing the coastal breeze coming through the open windows to clear the heavy air between us. When I finally pulled into the gravel turnout overlooking the vast blue horizon, surrounded by wildflowers blooming under the cloudless sky, I turned off the engine and looked at her, waiting for an explanation that I had unknowingly craved for years. Maeve sat quietly for a long moment, watching the sea foam break against the golden cliffs far below before turning to face me completely, her eyes shining with unshed tears that captured the bright sunlight. She began to speak, her voice trembling at first before finding a steady, emotional cadence that laid bare the agonizing truths she had kept locked inside her heart for 3 long years. She confessed that the breakup between Clara and me had not been the tragic accident of miscommunication I had believed it to be, but rather a calculated exit strategy orchestrated by Clara, who had already checked out of our relationship months before it officially ended. Maeve revealed how she had discovered Clara's secret infidelities and deceit, and how she had begged Clara to be honest with me instead of leaving me to blame myself for the failure of our future. With every sentence that poured from Maeve's lips under the brilliant afternoon sky, the heavy burden of self-doubt I had carried for years began to lighten, replaced by a profound, breathtaking clarity. Maeve explained that when she threatened to tell me the truth back then, Clara had given her an ultimatum, leveraging a deeply personal family secret that would have ruined Maeve's own family if exposed. Caught between loyalty, fear, and a desperate desire to protect everyone involved from total destruction, Maeve had chosen to stay silent, bearing the brunt of my quiet resentment and walking away from our shared friendship so that the truth wouldn't cause even greater collateral damage. She confessed that watching me pick up the shattered pieces of my life alone, believing I was at fault, had been the single greatest regret of her entire existence. Hearing the depth of her sacrifice, the immense guilt she had quietly endured, and the fierce protection she had tried to afford my dignity even while being painted as the villain in my story, touched a place in my soul that had been numb for far too long. The anger that had sustained my pride for 3 years melted away into the warm summer afternoon air, leaving behind only a profound sense of shared grief and unexpected grace. I looked at Maeve not as the distant best friend who had abandoned me, but as a brave, deeply compassionate woman who had carried an impossible burden in secret, sacrificing her own peace so that others might survive their own mistakes. In that quiet car, perched high above the shimmering ocean under the midday sun, a wave of forgiveness swept over us both, washing away the lingering shadows of the past and making room for something beautifully genuine to take root. We talked for hours as the sun made its slow, golden descent toward the horizon, sharing stories of the years we had missed, the hard lessons we had learned, and the quiet hopes we still carried for the future. The awkwardness that had once defined our interactions transformed into an effortless, warm connection, built on the solid foundation of truth, mutual respect, and an undeniable spark that had perhaps been waiting beneath the surface all along. By the time I finally drove her back to her house, the late afternoon sun cast long, warm shadows across her driveway, painting the world in rich shades of amber and gold. As she reached for the door handle, she paused and looked back at me with a soft, radiant smile that lit up her entire face, thanking me not just for the ride home, but for having the courage to keep driving when she asked. I realized then that sometimes the most painful chapters of our lives are simply necessary detours leading us directly toward the people who were truly meant to walk alongside us all along. Before we conclude this journey together, I would love for you to take a moment and reflect on the power of second chances and the unseen burdens people carry every single day. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had a moment where discovering the truth completely transformed how you viewed someone from your past? If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey.